Hello, everyone, and welcome into Off the Bench. I'm your host, Commissioner Filson, and of course, we'll be talking about the Week 5 matchups for college football and also the NFL this past weekend. Let's see who I have in my power rankings. But first, let's start off with some baseball because today started the wild card rounds in the MLB. So the first game was the Guardians and the Tigers, and the Tigers took that game because they have an amazing pitcher who I believe had 14 strikeouts today to start his postseason debut. Incredible. Also, the Padres and Cubs played, with the Cubs winning 3-1. That should be an interesting three-game series, really, between the wild card rounds. We have the Red Sox and Yankees, which they are playing right now, and the Red Sox are leading 2-1. And the Reds and Dodgers play right after that. And let's just say, go Reds all the way. So let's begin with college football. And we'll start off with Ohio State against Washington. This was no matchup at all. We all knew that Ohio State coming in would demolish them, which they absolutely did. It was no contest to begin with. I mean, they had 6 sacks in that game alone to start off their Big Ten conference play. To me, the Washington is still Pac-12. They're still going to be a Pac-12 team to me until down the road. That's just how I feel. But of course, Ohio State has another cheap, easy win under their belt. Even if they did go to Washington and beat up on, those little purple Huskies, which did absolutely nothing. I mean, when you let up 6 sacks in a game, you're bound to lose. Just like Auburn did with Oklahoma. They had 9 or 10 sacks during that game. You can't win a game like that. Not at all. So, this highlight, this next game of the whiteout out there in Happy Valley with Oregon against Penn State. Well, this was a really intriguing game to watch. You might say that it was the best game of the weekend, but I'm not going to say that because I was watching Bama and Georgia play. Now, I mean, early on, the Ducks, it was a low score affair, and eventually the Ducks, they scored, and it was 17-3. And then Penn State actually came alive, and they came back, and it was 17 all, so they went to overtime. And that's when it hurt Penn State the most. So Penn State gets the ball first, overtime. They go down and score. Oregon does the same thing. Second overtime begins, and guess what happens? Drew Aller throws a pick to seal the win for the Ducks. And as always, James Franklin, he can never win the big game. Probably never will. So, honestly, he reminds me of Mark Richt from Georgia all those years ago. He can win at 10 plus games a season, but he can never win the big ones. I mean, he's like, what, 1 in 20 over those matchups since he's been there? That is atrocious. Not even thought of. You know, I wouldn't think he'd be there much longer, honestly. But Oregon proved themselves to be still, I mean, a top 10 team, hell, even a top 5 team, in my opinion. So, yeah, I know I've said that they have started slow and they might come back to bite them, in the butt. But, I mean, both sides of the ball, they were outstanding. So, kudos to Oregon for winning that one. Yeah, this other game, to me, is the best game of the damn season so far. It's not even close. It was Bama versus Georgia. And don't get me wrong, I had Georgia winning this game. But there's a reason why I had Georgia winning this game. It's because I wanted Bama to prove that they are amongst the best, and they still are, and the standard is still Bama, not Georgia. Don't even think about Ohio State or Michigan, please. But what I saw Saturday night was pretty remarkable. I thought that we didn't have a chance at winning this game, but they pulled it out in the end, and their defense was absolutely on fire, and I loved every second of it. At the end of that game, man, I wanted to scream and shout, but of course, I have a youngin that was in bed already, and I couldn't really scream or shout at all. So I was just moving my arms, and had my hands in a fist and was moving up and down. But it still proves that Kirby Smart has a Bama problem. He can win against anybody else, but when it comes to Bama, he is like a lost puppy in the woods. And that might be the best way to describe it, actually. But, I mean, it was a good. We drove down the like first two drives. We were up 14-0, and then of course George came back. We had a few tricks up our sleeves with Caden Proctor getting the ball, getting that first down, massive stops on fourth and goal, fourth downs, and really Georgia they shot themselves in the foot. Let's just be clear about that. At the very end of that game, they had a chance to stop us, and on that 4th and 1, and their player leaped over that pile. You can't do that. And Kirby, his players should know that. They should know better than that. But anyways, Ty Simpson looked amazing, and I would have to say that he might be talked about in the Heisman race right now with that performance. No doubt about that. But I mean, Simpson he finished that game with 24 of 38 for 276 yards and a pair of scores. He was on fire that night, so I have faith. I have faith again in this team. Um, but the game prior to that was this Ole Miss and LSU game. Man, I really had some high expectations for LSU just for the simple fact of what they did to Clemson, but Clemson turns out to be nothing with Dabo Sweeney. So it wouldn't surprise me if they let him go at the end of the year. But I mean, they had a backup quarterback in that game for Ole Miss. It was what's his name, Trinidad to Chambliss. Yeah, so it was a really great game to watch too. Um, Ole Miss was ready to play. You knew that from the get go. They wanted it more than LSU, and if I'm not mistaken, man, the LSU faithful, they are sick and tired of Brian Kelly. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I was sick and tired of DeBoer week after week one, but he's he's kind of sold me back into it after this Georgia game. But that was a really good game to watch, of course, with Ole Miss getting the win. So let's move on to Indiana over Illinois. No, that was last week. I apologize. They played Iowa. That's right. And it was another low score affair till Indiana had a surging charge at the end, and they won. What was it, 16-10? I believe so. But I mean, they Indiana broke a late tie, against them with a 49-yard touchdown pass, by Mendoza. Okay, and they won 20-15. So that was another Big Ten matchup there. Again, I don't really think Indiana could be all that great, but we shall see. We shall see. Oh, Vandy. Now, Vandy is my second favorite team, okay? And yes, they did beat Bama last year, so we have revenge on our minds this week. That is for sure. But Vandy won against Utah State 55-35. And I mean, I'm just gonna say this: without this NIL, especially for Vandy, where would Vandy be right now? They would still be the same old Vandy, probably 1-4 at this point in the season. Not 5-0. Only reason why they are is because of old Diego Pavia. He has soared for the Commodores this year as he did last year. So we will see how that game plays out this week, which college game day will be in Tuscaloosa Saturday morning. That ought to be interesting. So Cincinnati, the Bearcats, they lost last week, and they seem to have gotten back on track. In a must-win season for their head coach, that Scott Satterfield. Dude, I mean, after losing 20-17 to Nebraska in the opener, they captured a third win in a row by beating Kansas 37-34 on the road. This was a quarterback battle. Jalen Daniels had 445 passing yards and 4 touchdowns, and Brendan Sorsby threw for 388 yards. He had 2 touchdowns. And at the end of that, he had 3 huge completions to set up the game winning touchdown run with 29 seconds left. Now, yeah, that is NFL caliber, like 2-minute warning stuff right there to seal it, Baker Mayfield style. Auburn, man, oh man. Auburn is in big trouble. They have been all season. And you knew coming in if Hugh Freeze was going to be on the hot seat. Well, let me just tell you, it's heating up. And it ain't looking pretty at all. And to my knowledge, I believe they're having struggles with NIL, you know, apparently so. But I mean, Auburn's offense, dude, they were swarmed and swallowed by that Texas A&M front, and dude, the Auburn now drops to 0-2 in SEC play. Man, what a huge disappointment. Now, granted, I like it. Uh, so I like seeing Auburn fail, and I like seeing UT fail. But we'll get into UT later. But I mean, dude, A&M outgained Auburn by like almost 260 yards and didn't even allow a third down conversion on 12 attempts just 2 weeks after giving up 40 points, against Notre Dame. Jackson Arnold, he threw for only 124 yards, and it was like four yards per pass. That's just to continue their lackluster start to the season, and it is not looking pretty. Old Arkansas, you knew it was coming, but Arkansas finally pulled the trigger and they fired Sam Pittman, and that should have happened like at least last year, really, to be honest with you. But it was 42-13 at halftime. What did you expect? That Arkansas was, yeah, sure, they were playing at home, but that didn't matter. And now all the committee's probably going to look at Notre Dame and think, oh man, they got a good quality win against an SEC opponent on the road. So Notre Dame is still in the mix. I cannot stand the media and their, love for Notre Dame. It is beyond me of how they do things with them. But so let's go on to USC versus Illinois. Dude, Illinois had a huge lead for most of that game, and then they let USC come back on them. And it was 32-31 with a few seconds left. And then Illinois kicked the field goal and won 34-32. And another Lincoln Riley disappointment loss. Couldn't have happened to a better guy. I mean, let's be honest here. Of course, before that, like last week, he was complaining about, we we like to start our games off at 11 o'clock at night, not 9 o'clock in the morning. Well, tough shit. Okay, you play in the Big Ten now. You're gonna have games that start off that early, and you gotta have your team prepared. I don't care who you are. Like, it is unacceptable. So, but I will say the Trojans they gained like damn near 500 yards on almost 6.5 yards per play, and they did convert 12 of 19 chances on third and fourth down, but they gave up 502 yards, and they didn't even have an answer for their quarterback Altmaier, who has averaged 12.6 yards per attempt, two passing touchdowns, one scorer on the ground, and the fourth as a receiver. So you can make an argument that, Illinois still isn't anything and USC is still average. But yeah, I'm going to go there because USC is still average and Illinois is yet to be really tested. But they did did get walloped by uh, Indiana last week. So, but this UT game, now I knew coming in that Mississippi State was going to hang with them, but I did not expect Mississippi State to hang with them until the very end. Let's be clear about that. I had it that UT was going to run away with it at least late third quarter. They're going to win handily, but turns out went to overtime. Now, and then they eventually won. Now, you can actually say that UT is like the Dallas Cowboys of the NFL this year because they have a high powered offense, but their defense needs a lot of help. They give up 400 plus yards a game, three or two plus touchdowns a game. So UT has a very big problem on their defensive side of the ball. Their offense, you shouldn't worry about that. You shouldn't worry about it at all. But just to be clear, if they are going to be in games this year, they have to score at least 35 plus points a game. That's a fact. Unless they get their defense cleared, which I don't see that happening at all, because you saw it against Georgia, and now you're seeing it against Mississippi State. Now, Mississippi State could be one of those, surprising, like most improved teams this year. They were 4-0 until that point. They had a good running game. They have a decent quarterback. So I give kudos to Mississippi State for hanging in to the very end of that game. So that is a recap of what happened this past weekend, week 5. And now here is Commish's power rankings. Number 1, I have Oregon. 2, Miami. 3, Ole Miss. 4, Ohio State. 5, Oklahoma. Yes, I know Oklahoma didn't. They had a bye week, so they're still in there in the power rankings, which I believe Miami did as well. 6, I have Texas A&M. 7 is Indiana. 8 is Bama. 9, Ohio State. 10, Georgia. Now, if you all would like to go to my Facebook page and comment, discuss whatever you would like to do, please do so. I would like to engage with you all and let me know what your power rankings are after this week. That would be great. Next up, we will do the NFL Week 4 matchups. everybody. Welcome back. And let's begin with our week 4 matchups with the NFL, shall we? So, first up, we have the Seahawks and Arizona on that Thursday night. And I don't know what you all expect from Thursday nights. I really don't. But to me, Thursday night games are like watching a damn high school game. It's kind of boring, to be honest with you. Let's see. Yeah, the Seahawks is 23, Arizona's 20. So the Cardinals, they tied it up at the very end of the game, late, with a few minutes left to go. And eventually, the Seahawks prevailed. But I mean, the short kickoff at the end gave the Seahawks a prime field position, and Sam Darnold capitalized, by driving down the field and just setting up that game-winning kick. Terrible special teams by the Cardinals, and what were those jerseys by the Cardinals? They were ugly, like crap. Was it like a? It was like a off-white with their red colors. I don't know who they were trying to like support or whatever, but it was not pretty. Not, not even the game. This next game was played in Dublin, Ireland, the home of the Scots. With I hate to say it, but damn it, the Steelers they look good. Rodgers looks like he of old. Looks like he did when he was with the Packers. But the Steelers, they jumped out to an early lead and they held off a late rally from the Vikings to beat them 24-21. The defense came up big in those final minutes, stopping the Vikings on that final drive just outside field goal range and preserved the win. And DK Metcalf had what was it, 80-yard reception touchdown. Incredible. Dude still got it. I mean, I dropped him from my fantasy team. I'm in a keeper league, but turns out I should have kept him, honestly. But this next game has no, fire between the Texans and the Titans. Lord, if you bet on the Titan against the Titans every week, and you have done so far, kudos to you. Kudos to you, because you've probably have made some decent money over the past month. But I mean, the Titans, they dropped to 0-4, and they suck. Their head coach is terrible. He needs to be let go at the end of the year, or maybe sooner, because I don't know how bad of a franchise they can be, you know, because it looks like just the worst for them. Now, I'm not a Titans fan by any means necessary, but I live in the state of Tennessee, and you would think your home team would do something, a little something to help out that rookie quarterback of theirs, Cam Ward. But I mean, the Texans aren't that great either. but they pick up their first win of the season, and you know, deservedly so, I guess. So, Patriots 42, the Panthers 13. Drake May threw for 203 yards and two touchdowns, and added another score on the ground as the Patriots cruised to a 14-13 victory over the Panthers. You could honestly say the Panthers are just as bad, but they are a little better than the Titans. They are. Because they have some moments where they can look great, but then they don't back it up. With the Titans, they don't back it up at all. There's nothing great about that team. Nothing great about that franchise. But Drake May, man, that rookie quarterback, he delivered. The one of his most efficient starts of the season. Helping his team build a 28-6 lead at halftime, to say the least, and they did not look back, not once. So good job by Vrabel and that offense. I believe it's coming together for them finally. Lions 34, Browns 10. After a slow start from the Lions, they eventually kicked it into gear, and they handled the Browns like any other team would, except for the Packers, through all three phases of that game. I mean, their offense was great, defense looked good, special teams. Now, I'll be honest here, I didn't expect their offense to pick up where it left off last year after Ben Johnson left, but it seems like they are not missing a beat at all. The Falcons 34 and the Redskins 27. Now, the Falcons actually showed up to play this past weekend. And Penix, he completed 20 of 27 passes for 313 yards and two touchdowns. And the Falcons' offense was highly efficient, generating 0.61 EPA per pass play, and the defense held off a late rally to move to 2-2 on the year. I truly think that Jaden Daniels could have played. He said so himself, but of course, you got to listen to your doctors and make sure it's safe, completely safe. Bills 31, the Saints 19. This almost falls into the category of any given Sunday. The Saints, they put up a fight for most of that game, but the Bills are the Bills. You ain't gonna beat Josh Allen, not when he's running for 40 plus yards and slinging it like he's a dog, because he is. And the Saints will be competing with the Titans in that first pick of the draft. Eagles 31, the Buccaneers 25. Going in, I thought that the Bucs would have a much more better game plan than what they did. I actually had the Bucs to cover or at least win against the Eagles, and they did neither. The line was plus 3.5, and I took them. Really thought that that was going to be the Bucs' day, but it was not. The Saquon was just held to 43 yards on 19 carries, and Hurts only threw for 130 yards. I don't think he had a completion at all in the second half, like completely at all. But of course, the Eagles found a way to win, you know, and they edged the Bucks 31-25. Baker had a crucial pick in that end zone where I believe they could have tied it up, but they did not play their best ball by any means. Rams 27, the Colts 20. Yeah, the Rams rebounded after a tough loss last week, and they handed the Colts their first loss of the season. But there were some critical errors, especially by Adonai Mitchell, who wiped out two potential Colts touchdowns off the board. They opened the door for the Rams to capitalize late. Of course, Tutu Atwell's go-ahead touchdown and Cameron Curl's second interception sealed the Colts' fate, and they pushed the Rams to a 3-1 record. Yeah, that mistake that I believe Adonai Mitchell had with letting the ball go before he crossed the plane. That was a boneheaded move. You can't do that. You're a professional athlete. You got to act like it. You can't be celebrating before the play is over. Which some have argued that that rule needs to be changed from a touchback or whatever. I don't really see a big issue about it. I mean, if you're going to make that dumb headed move or play, you deserve, for the Rams to have a touchback. The Jags and the Niners. The Jags actually surprised me on this one, winning 26-21. Parker Washington, yeah, he had a 87-yard punt return touchdown for the Jaguars, the first in 8 years. That's hard to believe. That helped fuel them to a 26-21 win over the Niners, which backed by their defense, which showed up to play. They got a good stingy defense too. But at the end of that, Robert Sala and Liam Cole, Coleman, they got into it and they exchanged a few words. And Sala pretty much said that he was going to kill him. That's not surprising by the least, considering he's, what is he, Muslim? Some part of Muslim. Anyways, Chiefs and the Ravens. You thought that the Ravens would put up a better fight than what they did, and it would be a back and forth slugger knocker of a game. Nah, no, dude. Chiefs came to play, and they were ready by any means necessary. I mean, my homie, he threw for 4 touchdown passes, and Lamar Jackson actually got injured during the game. They believe it's his hamstring. So, of course, they're going to look and monitor that throughout the week. I don't think it's that big of an issue. I think they were just being really precautious there because they have to have him throughout the season. The Ravens, they just look lost. Completely lost, especially on defense. They have so much talent on that team, and yet it is not being used correctly, or something must be in the water in Baltimore. But Xavier Worthy came back, had a big game. Um, Yeah, he had 83 receiving yards in his first NFL action back. The Bears 25 and the Raiders 24. You can argue this might have been the actually no. This is the second best game that happened on Sunday. Josh Blackwell, he had a blocked field goal in that the final seconds to have the Bears win, and they head into their bye week 2-2. We're 500, so things could be looking up for the Bears and Ben Johnson. But it really was an uneven performance. But I mean, the Bears did enough to escape with the victory, and the Raiders, they suck. They're just not good at all. Now, this was the best game of Sunday night so far. Um, so much anticipated with Micah coming back to Dallas and all this talk about, oh, can't wait to sack Prescott and all this mess, and but he got him once. That was a rushing saving touchdown that Dak could have had. But how are you going to tie in a damn game, especially when you play a professional sport and you get paid to win or you get paid to lose? There is no in between there, in my opinion. They need to change that rule completely. I also don't think that Green Bay had 1 second left on that clock. I think they just gave it to him just so we could talk about this little tie that the Packers and Cowboys had. But it really was an incredible showdown. Both quarterbacks came to play. Prescott, he was a menace, which this was the first time that the Packers defense looked human, letting up so many yards and Prescott slinging it all over him. But, I mean, Love and Prescott, they combined for 6 touchdowns in that back and forth battle. I was a fool, and I stayed up way too late to watch the ending of that game, thinking that the Cowboys could win. But of course, it ends up in a dang tie. What was it? Monday night we had a doubleheader for the NFL, which I do not recommend doing it again, Roger Goodell, because I want to focus on one game and one game only. I don't want to go back and forth through watching these games, especially if it's the Dolphins and Jets and the Bengals and Broncos. But the Dolphins, they secured their first win of the season over the Jets, but it came with a very high cost because their best player, Tyreek Hill, man, did y'all see that play where his ankle got twisted at the end? Oh, he was just dangling like an ornament. So gross. But he's done for the year. He also tore several ligaments in his knee too. So there might be a way for him to get out of Miami with him being injured, if that's what he wants. But you saw Darren Waller come to life. His first really live action of the season. He had 2 touchdown receptions. And also Achan, he had a rushing touchdown So the offense actually clicked for Miami for once. But that might be the only win they have this year. And Mike McDaniel is probably going to lose his job. Broncos and the Bengals. Now the Broncos, they started off very slow, but eventually they picked it up. And their defense was stellar. So it seems like they are coming back to normal or back on track. I mean, they gave up an opening drive field goal, but that was the only points that they let up, and they didn't even look back, not once. Now, I will say, I mean, both of those games were so penalty filled, especially that Miami Jets game. It was so terrible. Like, before every snap that the Jets had, it was a pre start penalty, or, of course, a false start, or holding. Same goes for the Bengals and Broncos. Such a lackluster Monday night games. And what kind of jerseys was Miami wearing? Those black and blue and orange. It's almost, yeah, as bad as the Cardinals jerseys. They looked awful. But with that being said, here are Commish's power rankings through week 4 of the NFL. Number 1, I have the Eagles. Until somebody beats them, they're still going to be number 1. I'm waiting for the day that they get beat. Honestly. Number 2 is the Bills. You could argue that the Bills and Eagles could swap here, but since they are the defending champs, I'll have the Eagles at 1, Bills at 2. 3, I have the Rams. I had a really good bounce back game against the Colts. The Lions, they keep climbing up because that offense is not skipping a beat, not at all. Especially with Jared Goff at the helm, and you got Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, studs. I have the Chargers at 5. That was a good bounce back win for them. Actually, no. I'm sorry. The Chargers lost to the Giants with Jackson Dart's debut. 6, I have the Steelers. 7 is Packers. 8 is the Chiefs. 9 is the Bucks. 10 is the Colts. Now, feel free to agree or disagree with me on that. And please comment on that Facebook page. And I want to see your power rankings for college and pro. We can debate and discuss, and we'll also be keeping up with the baseball playoffs. So that'll be another interesting take. But so that is all I have for you all today. And until next time, Commissioner Filson is out. Thank you for listening, and God bless.